Alright, so let's cover enzymes. Yep, so food coloring, yeah, it can color your, again, it can color your feces if it stays intact throughout your entire GI tract. But yeah, so then your GI tract over here, and here we have our model right here, and what is she going to eat? She's going to eat this yummy spam musubi, so she's going to take it, do physical digestion, and mash it up. So she's mashing it up to break it down into smaller particles so she can do chemical digestion. So again, what is a spam musubi? Well, besides delicious, is it also many things. So the spam itself, it has protein, mostly fat, but again, it still has protein. And again, the rice has all these carbs as well. And there is, again, it came from a living creature, so there is nucleic acids as well. So you get all four biological macromolecules. So think about biological macromolecules and enzymes in your GI tract. Different parts of your GI tract have different specialties. So here we have, so what enzymes are being produced by the salivary glands? So your sublingual gland actually produces something that helps to digest, or so you can play along. So again, you have your sublingual, you have your submandibular, and your parotid glands. So the sublingual glands, it produces a special enzyme called lingual lipase. Again, what does lipase digest? Lipids, right? Fat. So lingual lipase helps to digest lipids and fats. It does get activated only when you reach the stomach, but I think that's a more advanced question. But again, just know that you can digest the lipids. So you have proteases, lipids, amylases, and nucleases, but thing about your salivary glands collectively, they only digest lipases. They have that lingual lipase, and they also have amylases as well. They don't really digest proteins or nucleic acids. So again, at the mouth, at the salivary glands, you have the production of lipases and amylases. Which specific ones I will get to pretty soon. All right, so then you go from the stomach, I mean, not the stomach, you go from the mouth, you go to your pharynx, you go to your esophagus. Not really significant amounts of enzymes are being produced by the pharynx and esophagus. So what's the next stop? Now we have all the nutrients or the food particles entering your stomach via that bolus. So that bolus of food ends up in your stomach. So remember, what does pepsin digest? So it digests proteins, right? So you do have proteases in the stomach. You also lipids. There is a gastric lipase. I don't think it's in your book, but no, it exists. You also have lingual lipase being activated in the stomach. So your stomach is very important in digesting proteins, again, via pepsin, and lipids and fats via lingual and gastric lipase. So carbohydrates, they're not significantly digested by the stomach, and nucleases not really by the stomach as well. So the main functions of the enzymes in the stomach: digestion of proteins, digestion of lipids and fats. Then you get to the pancreas. So the pancreas is an accessory organ, but it's very important. Why? So the thing in pancreas is that it secretes all four types of enzymes. So it secretes proteases, there's pancreatic lipases, there are pancreatic amylases, there are pancreatic nucleases. So your pancreas is kind of like the all-star of your GI tract in terms of chemical digestion. In its pancreatic secretions, it can digest all types of biological macromolecules. So again, this is why accessory organ just means it's not part of the main GI tract tube, but doesn't mean they're not important. Your pancreas is very important in helping with digestion. And then you get to the small intestines. The small intestines, you have proteases in the small intestines. You don't really have a significant amount of lipases secreted by the small intestine. You do have something called carbohydrases, and more specifically, they break down like members of like 2 or 3 monosaccharides linked together, so disaccharides. This is where you find a lot of carbohydrases that break apart disaccharides into monosaccharides. And nucleases, not really. So small intestine, after the duodenum, you have proteases and you have carbohydrases. So again, to review, you have the mouth secreting amylases, you have the parotid gland and submandibular gland, and the lingual lipase being released by the sublingual gland. Thank goodness this is pretty one-in-one. Stomach. So it secretes pepsin, and I think some textbooks include renin, and this is different from the blood pressure renin, the one that converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. So notice it's a double N. It also has another name called chymosin, but there used to be a theory like, okay, they detected this, and maybe this was only produced by infants to help babies digest milk from their mothers. But now they looked at the gene and they said this gene is actually not really active, and even if you were able to make an enzyme, this enzyme is kind of like a chopped off version of the renin we find in things like sheep and cows. Like other vertebrates have renin, and that helps them digest, again, things like milk proteins. But whether we have that, that's controversial. So don't worry too much about that. Gastric lipase, again, this isn't in your book. No, it exists. And then pancreas, again, the all-star in terms of chemical digestion. Why? It produces amylases, it produces proteases, it produces lipases, it produces nucleases. So this is why if your pancreas has trouble keeping up with digestion, or maybe it has weak activity, this is what we call pancreatic insufficiency. What will that end up doing? Well, again, if you have lower levels of all of these enzymes, you're going to have tough time digesting things. And small intestines, it digests maltase, sucrase, and lactase. So maltose, that's a disaccharide. So maltose is a disaccharide, so you have glucose becoming maltose. So then maltase breaks it apart. Now sucrases digest sucrose. Again, sucrose is glucose plus fructose. Break it apart, and then that's what sucrase does. And lactase is when you have, again, galactose and glucose. Break that apart with lactase and you have the monosaccharides. So again, these break apart disaccharides, that's why they're not amylases. And you have peptidases as well. Do you have no specific ones for this class? Not at this point. But again, just know that, again, notice that different parts of the GI tract, they digest different types of biological macromolecules. All right, so I think I'm going to leave this for the rest of, I think, Wednesday. So again, priority is on the exam. I will upload Friday eventually, but again, this is why it's taking a while. I want to push out that study guide.